an enchanting peninsula of glistening white beaches and crystal blue lakes, of exotic wildlife and tropical gardens, of futuristic cities and magical attractions. It is a land of endless sunshine, shaped like a thumb pointing out to sea. Florida is probably the United States' most recognizable piece of land. It is bordered by Alabama and Georgia to the north and the Atlantic Ocean to the east. The Straits of Florida flow to the south of the state, and the waters of the Gulf of Mexico wash ashore on its western coast. Florida's beauty was first discovered by Europeans in the 16th century. Searching for gold, silver, and the legendary Fountain of Youth, Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon landed on the northeastern coast in 1513 and claimed the land for Spain. He named the area La Florida in honor of the Spanish holiday Pascua Florida, the Feast of the Flowers. It has been rediscovered in the last century by millions of vacationers who have made this sunny peninsula one of the most popular travel destinations in the world. Florida is divided into 7 regions, each with its unique flavor and charm. The Northwest region, commonly known as the Florida Panhandle, is a land of hidden treasures. Sugar white beaches, emerald blue waters, and pine green forests combine to paint a picture of unspoiled beauty. Located on the far western end is a coastal community proud of its rich heritage, Pensacola. Seville Square marks the spot of the first permanent Spanish colony established in 1752. Today, the square is the centerpiece of a 37-block section of restored homes known as the Seville Historic District. Within the district, historic Pensacola Village recreates the life in Pensacola under European rule. Breezy causeways connect the city with the Gulf Islands National Seashore, a 150-square-mile group of protected barrier islands rich in natural resources. These islands boast miles and miles of the world's whitest beaches. Each is composed of no less than 99% pure quartz crystal sand. Tallahassee, a secluded jewel of old mansions and modern office buildings, was founded in 1823 for one purpose: to be the capital of Florida. Tallahassee is located inside the crook of Florida's peninsula, among 7 foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. It bills itself as Florida with a Southern accent, as its spirit and architecture attest. The skyline is dominated by the Capitol complex. It encompasses both the new Capitol, a $50 million high-rise tower, and the old Capitol, a traditional domed structure restored to its original 1902 appearance. Tallahassee also boasts several elegant pre-Civil War mansions, such as Pebble Hill. Florida's rich history began in the Northeast region, an area where the past coexists with the present. The region is anchored in the north by the city of Jacksonville, which at 840 square miles is America's largest city in land area. Jacksonville's location, with its deep port and mild climate, has made it one of the most important industrial hubs of the South. The beautiful St. Johns River zigzags through the center of this thriving metropolis. This meandering river plays an important role in almost all aspects of life in the city. The showpiece of downtown is the Jacksonville Landing, a horseshoe-shaped festival marketplace located on the north bank of the river. Across the river on the south bank is the Riverwalk. This wooden boardwalk stretches for more than a mile along the river and provides for a spectacular look at the city's dazzling skyline. At one end of the Riverwalk is Friendship Park. The fountain within this park is one of the tallest in the world. Southeast of Jacksonville is the site of the first permanent settlement by Europeans in North America, St. Augustine. It was Spanish Admiral Pedro Menendez de Aviles who named the area when he first sighted land in 1565 on the feast day of St. Augustine. The Spanish mission of Nombre de Dios is located at the site where it's believed the city's founder first walked ashore. On the ground stands a magnificent 208-foot stainless steel cross marking this memorable spot. Downtown St. Augustine looks much the same as it has for centuries. This historic district, centered along St. George Street, contains the nation's oldest house, school, and store. To enter the Spanish Quarter in this restored area of the city is to step back in time. Within these walls, history is relived by recreating the daily lives of the soldiers and settlers who occupied these houses in the 1740s. Most notable of St. Augustine's landmarks is the great Castillo de San Marcos, a powerful symbol of Spain's strength in the New World. The walls of this great star-shaped fortress are 30 feet high and 16 feet thick at their base. Florida's central east coast is a region of adventure extending from the earth to the stars. The best-known resort area of the central east coast, Daytona Beach, brings to mind the images of sunshine, spring break, and speed. It is famous for its 23-mile-long beach, a marvel of sparkling sand packed so densely that cars can easily drive on it. Car enthusiasts started doing just that in the early 1900s. They gradually developed the beach into a natural racetrack where speed records were set by the automotive greats of the time. Today, automobile racing and silky smooth sand remain Daytona's paramount attractions. Cars are still allowed access to the beach, though they are restricted to a maximum speed of 10 miles an hour. No such restrictions apply at the Daytona International Speedway, which has replaced the beach as the prime racing locale. The most renowned of the many events hosted here is the Daytona 500, the world's premier stock car race.
Now Kyle drops back and it's Joe. This one's going to come to the line right now, battling. Here comes Petty down to the inside left.
Along with sunshine and sand, Florida is synonymous with citrus. Southward along the Indian River, the air is filled with the sweet scent of oranges and grapefruits. Citrus trees native to the Far East were introduced to Florida by the Spanish in the early 16th century. Nevins Fruit Company, located in Titusville, a town on the Indian River, is one of the oldest commercial growers in the state. During the winter harvesting season, the fruit is picked and sent to the packaging plant to be washed, sorted, and boxed for shipment worldwide. The Indian River also forms a natural boundary for an area known as the Space Coast. Here, two great opposites are united: high technology and undisturbed nature. Strategically located, Florida's Space Coast was ideally suited to be the birthplace of America's exploration of the universe. From the early days, however, the pioneers of space exploration were determined to live in harmony with nature and protect the environment. As a result, the Kennedy Space Center sprawls across the ecological Eden of the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge and the Canaveral National Seashore. Appropriately, these 220 miles of primitive swamp, hammock, marsh, and windswept beaches are a premier sanctuary for the creatures that inspired men to fly. John F. Kennedy Space Center is the nation's major launch base for all manned and most unmanned spacecraft. It is from here that astronauts and sophisticated machines begin their journeys into Earth's orbit and beyond. Kennedy Space Center's Spaceport USA allows visitors a glimpse inside the world of space exploration. Here, they can relive past achievements, such as the Mercury and Gemini programs that put the first men in space, and the Apollo missions that landed the first man on the moon.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
These historic events paved the way for the present-day era of the Space Shuttle, the first versatile, reusable spacecraft. The vast Space Center complex is dominated by the Vehicle Assembly Building. At 525 feet tall, 716 feet long, and 588 feet wide, it's one of the world's largest buildings. It is here that space shuttles are assembled into flight-ready vehicles before being taken to the launch pad. At the launch pad, the shuttle is fueled and rechecked for a final time. From here, it blasts off in a blaze of color, which can be viewed from miles around.
Tower cleared. The vehicle now turning to around teleprompter.
Central Florida is a land of many faces. An enchanting contrast exists between the futuristic fantasies realized by many of the area's attractions and the timeless natural splendor of its outdoor blessings. The northern portion of this region is characterized by crystal clear lakes, spring-fed rivers, and thick hardwood forests. It is dominated by an area known as the Big Scrub, Ocala National Forest. This 400,000-acre subtropical wilderness is noted for the world's largest stand of sand pine trees. South of Ocala, at the center of activity in this region, is the city of Orlando. As if touched by pixie dust, the once sleepy little town of Orlando has transformed itself into the #1 tourist destination in the world. Thousands of visitors fly daily into Orlando International Airport. It's one of the busiest airports in the world, handling over 800 flights a day. In the Orlando area alone, over 69,000 hotel and motel rooms offer hospitality to guests from around the world. This tourism boom had its roots in the early 1960s, when the visionary Walt Disney picked the greater Orlando area as the site for his new make-believe world. Walt Disney World attracts millions of visitors a year, more than any other attraction in the world. Spurred on by Walt Disney World's success, A variety of theme parks followed. The Orlando area has not been the same since. The city of Orlando itself is a vibrant community with a love of the arts and outdoors. The showcase attraction of Orlando's revitalized downtown area is Church Street Station. This popular entertainment complex, filled with rollicking restaurants, nightclubs, and shops, is a delightful step into the past. The most popular of the attractions is Rosie O'Grady's, a turn-of-the-century saloon featuring Dixieland bands, can-can dancers, and vaudeville singers. Orlando is also home to the world's largest park devoted to marine life, SeaWorld. Here, the park's famous killer whales take center stage along with a host of other performing aquatic stars.
Nice handshake from Cindy!
SeaWorld is also an educational center where visitors can learn up close about the majestic animals of the sea. Located near SeaWorld, Universal Studios brings Hollywood to Florida in grand style.
Immortalize that, I'm gonna be a movie star someday.
Oh, Crown. Crown, rockabye bit. I know you. You're my mama, the queen. Hey, mama.
How about a big wet one, Lisa? Give me a kiss. Come on. What are you in? Just a little one.
Jay Stein, president of the MCA Recreation Services Group, talks about its uniqueness.
Universal Studios Florida is the largest film studio ever built outside of Hollywood. We presently have 6 sound stages that are in full production, and the largest back lot anywhere in the world, with over 50 different varieties of sets and locations.
Now with editing, you can make just about
A real working studio, Universal offers a behind-the-scenes look at the art of film and television production.
All right, fly in the camera.
Visitors can also relive movie history in a series of spectacular entertainment attractions based on hit movies.
Find the one you call E.T. Bring him home to the green planet.
Uh-oh, trouble.
We've got some unauthorized people entering the base. Wait, they got E.T. They're getting away. Unit 3, cut them off.
Kissimmee, a small country town that neighbors Orlando, also has benefited from the tourist boom. It is home to an attraction that combines dinner with a trip to a faraway land in another time and place, medieval times. Here, guests are transported back 1,000 years to the Middle Ages, to the days of knights and chivalry. As participants in a medieval banquet and tournament extravaganza, they cheer their knights on to victory. From the serene waters of Crystal River south to the bustling streets of Sarasota, Florida's Central West region is an area of diverse cultural influences. The Crystal River area is the winter home of Florida's lovable sea cow, the manatee. These shy vegetarian mammals, which sea-wary early explorers mistook for mermaids, were once plentiful. They now are an endangered species, and the area's warm spring-fed rivers and sheltered bays are one of the few sanctuaries left for these gentle giants. The Pinellas Suncoast is a 30-mile stretch of inviting waterfront communities extending along the Gulf Coast. From Clearwater Beach to St. Petersburg Beach, the coast is dotted with miles and miles of white sand beaches. Coupled with the gentle blue waters of the Gulf, the area boasts every kind of water sport, from fishing to windsurfing. The city of St. Petersburg has a relaxed manner. Its waterfront area features Spanish Mediterranean architecture, a yacht harbor, and a massive pier extending out into the bay. This recently renovated pier is the city's busiest landmark. It's a magnificent 5-story structure in the shape of an inverted pyramid containing shops, an aquarium, restaurants, and an observation deck. The city is also home to the Salvador Dali Museum. The museum displays the world's largest collection of paintings of this famous Spanish surrealist painter. South of St. Petersburg, spanning Tampa Bay, is the impressive Sunshine Skyway Bridge. Modeled after the Breton Bridge over the Seine River in France, it is just over 4 miles long and towers 183 feet over the water. Located across the bay from St. Petersburg, the city of Tampa has its own special brand of hospitality that's as warm and welcoming as its endless sunshine. Tampa boasts a bustling business community and a wide variety of cultural and sports activities.
One out, runner at third, and a base hit to left.
Its most important pioneer was Henry B. Plant, who brought the railroad to Tampa in 1884, making the city accessible for travel and trade. He also built the palatial Tampa Bay Hotel, a popular vacation spot for the wealthy at the turn of the century. The building's Moorish architecture and 13 silver minarets are a Tampa landmark. It is now part of the University of Tampa and houses the Henry B. Plant Museum. Tampa's historic Ybor City provides an authentic look at Cuban culture. In 1886, Vicente Martinez Ybor led the way for Cuban cigar makers to move their manufacturing operations from Key West to Tampa. Industry flourished and provided the foundation for a strong, vivacious Cuban community whose impact is still felt today. At the center of this district is Ybor Square, a renovated cigar factory. It is a thriving center for many Tampa artisans, as well as the famous cigar makers who carry on century-old traditions. Perhaps the most famous of Tampa's attractions is the 300-acre Busch Gardens, the Dark Continent. park is divided into 8 themed areas, each transporting visitors back to a turn-of-the-century Africa. Stretched along the Gulf of Mexico, about 60 miles south of Tampa Bay, is a thriving cultural community, Sarasota. Long ago, circus tycoon John Ringling found Sarasota to be an ideal spot for the training and recuperation of his clowns and performers during the winter. Along the bay, Ringling also built for himself an ornate home patterned after the Palace of Doge in Venice, Italy. Today, the Ringling Museums include this mansion, as well as an art museum, and one museum filled with circus memorabilia. The Southwest region is the Florida of days long past, with white sand beaches, exotic wildlife, and lush subtropical foliage. The unspoiled shoreline of the Lee Island coast and its pristine barrier islands best illustrate the area's numerous charms. Each day, the Gulf of Mexico churns up its treasures in the form of thousands of multicolored shells. While all of the coast is shell-littered, the barrier islands of Captiva and Sanibel are perhaps most abundantly endowed, making them a sheller's paradise. Hundreds of prowling shell seekers, or shunters, come out to the beaches in hazy hours before dawn to search for prized specimens. The magnificence of nature is also visible throughout the 5,030 acres of the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge. Located on the north side of Sanibel, it is home to many species of Florida bird life, such as the roseate spoonbill. Sanibel and Captiva Islands are also known for their world-class resorts, which promote the region's unsurpassed natural beauty and serenity. It is possible that no single expanse of open land is as unique as the 1.4 million acres at Florida's southern tip, known as Everglades National Park. A quiet and mysterious area, its wonders are subtle and easy to miss. At first, it appears to be nothing more than an endless prairie of swampy grassland dotted here and there with bits of forest. This is not a swamp, however, but rather an enormous, shallow, life-giving river that slowly flows from Lake Okeechobee south to the sea. There are no other Everglades in the world, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas wrote in her 1947 book, The Everglades, River of Grass. With her book's publication, this remarkable woman changed the image of the Everglades and started the crusade to save it. Once thought of as a useless, mosquito-ridden bog, it is now known to be a unique, interdependent ecosystem, contributing extensively to life on the peninsula. It is home to at least 300 varieties of birds, 600 species of fish, and countless other wildlife, many of which can be found nowhere else in the world. Despite conservation efforts, much of what remains in the Everglades is threatened by extinction. Deb Liggett, naturalist with Everglades National Park, talks about the future of the Everglades.
In the early 20s and 30s, major hurricanes hit central and southern Florida, and dikes and levees were built to control the waters in Lake Okeechobee. Since then, many other major changes have been made to the water drainage system of Everglades. Each of those changes has had a dramatic and a degrading effect upon the ecosystems within the park. We feel that if we can't turn things around in the next 5 to 10 years, that we will lose the first national park.
The Everglades are also home to most of the remaining members of Florida's Native American population. In the 18th century, Creeks from Georgia and other southeastern tribes began to migrate to Florida. They became known as Seminoles, a name meaning exiles or wanderers. In the ensuing years, conflicts over land ownership began to erupt between the Seminoles and settlers. Competing claims resulted in the First, Second, and Third Seminole Wars. In the end, most of the native population were driven west or killed. Several hundred Seminoles, however, managed to escape into the wilds of the Everglades. Today, their descendants number about 2,000 and live in two separate groups, the Creek and the Miccosukee. Southeast Florida, one of the liveliest regions of the peninsula, is in perpetual motion. The 50 miles of Atlantic Ocean coast that stretch from Palm Beach to Fort Lauderdale contain many world-renowned beaches and resorts and are home to many of the nation's wealthiest citizens. The opulent displays of wealth found onshore are reason enough to dub this section of Southeast Florida the Gold Coast. In fact, it was the real gold salvaged from shipwrecks offshore that earned the area its nickname. The name harkens back to the days when these were treacherous shores for Spanish galleons, many of which wrecked on hidden reefs, spilling their precious cargoes. Salvage operations have unearthed some of the treasure, but much still remains buried beneath the sea. If ever a name were synonymous with society, it would be Palm Beach. Elegant, expensive, exclusive, it is a land of mansions, Rolls Royces, and glittering balls. The city developed into a winter playground for the rich in the early 1900s when Henry Flagler's Florida East Coast Railroad reached town. Flagler transformed a palm-studded strip of land into an international high society resort, attracting the world's affluent. Flagler's love for Palm Beach was so strong that he built a palatial mansion here, Whitehall. Now a museum, it provides a glimpse into the lifestyle of a man who pioneered the development of Florida's East Coast. In Palm Beach, shopping is an art form. One of the most elite, high-priced shopping streets in the world is located here, Worth Avenue. It seems almost impossible to believe that the area which is now the city of Fort Lauderdale was once a wild swampland that early explorers deemed unfit for habitation. The swampland was transformed by dredging up a series of parallel canals and using the fill to create long peninsulas between them. Some 165 miles of canals have earned Fort Lauderdale the nickname, the Venice of America. Fort Lauderdale is a booming city with dozens of tall office buildings crowding the downtown skyline and dozens of resort hotels gathered along its famous beaches. Fort Lauderdale is also the winter home of the New York Yankees. Here, the month of March means hot dogs, line drives, and the crack of the bat.
There, a time or two. Mattingly with the drive, deep right, back.
Spring training games attract over 1 million fans to Florida each year, bringing millions of dollars into local economies.
He was 0 for 7. Has 4 hits today, and that's home run number 1. No doubt about that one.
Below Fort Lauderdale's southern borders lies an international metropolis built across a subtropical backdrop, Greater Miami. Its dramatic cultural diversity, thriving economy, and cosmopolitan flair are apparent throughout its distinctive neighborhoods, each an attraction in its own right. Miami is often labeled the city of the future because of the dramatic skyscrapers, ultra-modern hotels, and international financial district, which comprise its downtown. Adorned by a parade of palms, Brickell Avenue boasts towers of mirrored glass and steel. It is the Wall Street of Miami, full of brand new offices and banks. Claude and Mildred Pepper Bayfront Park is a brief respite from the hustle and activity of downtown. Its rolling green hills and rock-studded palm tree gardens skirt the bay and provide the perfect setting for many of the city's outdoor activities. Bayside Marketplace, a waterside mall, is located next to the park. This complex surrounds a marina and contains restaurants, shops, cafes, and boutiques, all reflecting the ethnic and cultural diversity of the city. Nestled on the west side of downtown is Little Havana, Miami's Cuban core. This neighborhood centers on Southwest 8th Street and is known as Calle Ocho. This is where refugees fleeing from the communist government of Cuban leader Fidel Castro settled when they reached these shores in the early 1960s. Eclipsing all previous changes in Miami's history, the arrival of these refugees ignited a cultural metamorphosis that has transformed every aspect of Miami's character. This bustling community is full of shops, restaurants, and businesses that cater to the Cuban population. The annual Carnival Miami dramatically captures the flavor of this area. This week-long March festival culminates in one large party spanning 20 blocks and hosts over 1 million people. Speeding objects take center stage at the Miami High Life Fronton, located near Little Havana. Built in 1926, the Miami High Life Fronton is the oldest and largest arena in the United States for the ancient game of High Life. High Life, invented in the Basque region of northern Spain, is called the fastest game on 2 feet. High Life balls, called pelotas, have been clocked at speeds exceeding 170 miles an hour. The sweeping curve of Rickenbacker Causeway links downtown Miami to Key Biscayne, a subtropical island of natural beauty. The allure of this area is its carefully preserved beaches and recreational diversions. Across from Key Biscayne, back on the mainland, is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Miami, Coconut Grove. The Grove's charm lies in the relaxed, unhurried pace in which it moves. At almost any hour, people can be found browsing through the galleries and the shops and sitting in the outdoor cafes which dot the main streets of the community. The rich history of the area is evident at the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens. This exquisite Italian Renaissance-styled villa was built in 1916 to serve as the winter residence of industrialist James Deering. Located on Biscayne Bay, the grounds include 10 acres of formal gardens, fountains, and statues. Parrot Jungle and Gardens, southwest of Coconut Grove, is one of Miami's oldest and most popular attractions.
Want to say hello? Hello! Okay, why don't you tell everybody your name? Maya! Very good, it is Maya.
Opened in 1936, it is a subtropical garden home to a vast collection of exotic birds. Several causeways span Biscayne Bay and link the mainland to the city renowned for its warm sunshine, sandy beaches, and graceful palms, Miami Beach. The city's main street, Collins Avenue, runs along the Atlantic coast and is lined with a myriad of hotels, most famous of which is the exquisite Fontainebleau Hilton. South Beach includes the Miami Beach Art Deco district, the largest concentration of this type of architecture in the world. This district, which consists of 80 square blocks and 800 buildings, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Nancy Liebman, Executive Director of the Miami Design Preservation League, describes the origins of the Art Deco style.
Art Deco is a style that emerged back in the late 1920s. It came from an exposition in Paris and brought with it a new trend and a new styling. We consider it the modern architecture of its day. And here in Miami Beach we have an adaptation, a very whimsical adaptation of the style of building.
South Beach is also home to a South Florida tradition since 1913, Joe's Stone Crab Restaurant. Stone crabs are extremely hard-shelled crabs that reside around the Florida Keys and nowhere else in the world. The original Joe perfected the cooking of these crabs and opened the world's eyes to this native delicacy. The family owns its own fish house, where crab fishermen bring in their catch to be weighed. The harvested crab claws are immediately boiled, sorted by size, and packed in ice to be delivered to their restaurant as well as shipped worldwide. At the restaurant, the claws are cracked and served with butter and mustard sauce. Joe's is also famous for its key lime pie, another Florida specialty. Authentic key lime pie has a yellow, not green filling, and it is made from the tiny yellow limes that grow in the Keys. Huge cruise ships dominate the horizon from the MacArthur Causeway linking South Beach to downtown Miami. These luxury superliners are anchored at the Port of Miami, the world's leading cruise passenger facility. While the Florida beaches and theme parks steal most of the tourist thunder, a quiet explosion has also been going on in the state's cruise ports. Over 2.5 million passengers annually pass through Miami on their way to exotic ports in the Caribbean and beyond. These magnificent floating resorts with befitting names such as Ecstasy and Fantasy are designed with pleasure in mind. Continuing down the coast, the southern tip of Florida eases itself along a series of 32 coral and limestone islands. These are the Florida Keys, which derived their name from the Spanish word cayo, or little island. The islands are linked together by 42 bridges that are part of the Overseas Highway, the only land route through the Keys. Key Largo, the largest of the islands, is often considered the entry point for the Keys. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall made the town famous in their spellbinding movie, Key Largo. Another visible linkage to Bogart is the original African Queen, the steam-powered boat on which he and Katharine Hepburn ventured forth in the movie of the same name. This immortal boat is still operational and is docked in the Key Largo Marina. Movie nostalgia aside, Key Largo is best known for the coral reef and historic shipwrecks located a few miles offshore. Key Largo bills itself as the sports diving capital of the world. Captain Slate discusses what attracts sports divers to Key Largo.
The biggest attraction, I guess, in the Keys is, of course, the coral reef. It's very pretty, very prolific, and the shallowness of the reef from the surface down to an average of 40 feet gives us a lot of time to stay on the bottom diving, as well as snorkelers can go out and, with divers and snorkel on the surface and see the entire reef. It's very clear usually.
Glass-bottom boats, such as the Key Largo Princess, are also a popular way to view this underwater paradise. North America's only living coral reef is part of the John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park. The first underwater state park in the United States, it covers approximately 178 nautical square miles of coral reefs, seagrass beds, and mangrove swamps. Among the sights is a 9-foot bronze statue, Christ of the Deep, a replica of Guido Gaglietti's Christ of the Abyss in the Mediterranean Sea off Italy. Atlantic bottlenose dolphins can often be spotted swimming and cavorting in Key Largo's waters. At Dolphins Plus, humans are allowed to enter the dolphin world and experience firsthand these delightful and intelligent sea mammals. Less than 20 miles farther south is the town of Islamorada, located on Upper Matacumbe Key. Islamorada is world famous for its sport fishing. Anglers come from all over to test their skill against some of the feistiest fish in the sea. The magnificent 7-mile bridge is the most impressive of the 42 bridges connecting the islands. It allows the overseas highway to reach its final destination, Key West, the southernmost city in the continental United States. Key West is in a class by itself, a tropical paradise where life moves to a slower beat. Though many famous authors have spent time in Key West, none has left as strong a mark as Ernest Hemingway. He and his wife Pauline bought a fine old coral stone house here, where they lived from 1931 to the end of their marriage in 1939. Today, the Hemingway House is a tribute to his life and work. It is here that he created such masterpieces as A Farewell to Arms and For Whom the Bell Tolls. Throughout the marvelous house and luxuriant grounds roam sleek, six-toed felines, descendants of Hemingway's own cats. The Hemingway Days Festival, held in July, honors both the man and his works. The highlight of this week-long celebration is the Papa Hemingway Look-alike Contest.
Are we ready? Yeah. Bob, look right in here. 1, 2, 3. Right here, Bob. Right here, Bob. Over here, Bob. Thank you. Hey! Over there, Bob. All right!
There's a lot of camaraderie goes with this. At this time of year, any of us who've been here would never be anywhere else.
The Hemingway House is part of Key West's historic district known as the Old Town. The most notable feature of the Old Town are the beautiful old conch houses, which were built in the 19th century, usually of wood, by ship's carpenters who had never designed homes before. Influenced by the varied backgrounds of their owners and the demands of the hurricane-prone climate, the result is an eclectic architectural heritage unique to this island city. Duval Street cuts down the middle of the Old Town and is lined with bars, shops, art galleries, and restaurants. Mallory Square at the foot of Duval Street on Key West Harbor is famous for celebrations that take place here every day just before sunset. A unique assortment of characters assembles to give the sun an extraordinary send-off.
Over here! Sword swallowing! Watch me risk my life for your cultural edification. You think they heard me?
Legs, ladies. Legs.
More legs.
More looping on the legs.
Nobody cross the stake between the two in the shoe. Especially now. Hey!
From Miami to St. Petersburg. From St. Augustine to Orlando. From Key West to Fort Lauderdale. And from Tallahassee to the Everglades. Florida is a feast for the senses. It is overflowing with exotic plants and wildlife, magical attractions, spirited communities, and sandy beaches. Florida is a natural playground which gently basks in the warming rays of the sun.